I have insurance, and so I don't need to focus on anything else other than just my physical well-being, because a bike is completely replaceable. And the fact that you have insurance and that you're protected and you're covered, all you need to do is focus on yourself and getting yourself better. Like, I'm going to try and I'm going to take risks and I'm going to take chances, because why else? Why would you not, right? I'm Alicia Speak. I'm 37. I'm a full-time lawyer, but I'm also a cyclist for Cycle Team London.
To the Future trilogy, Doc Brown famously says, where we're going, we don't need roads. Well, that's not quite the case here in the real world. So seeing as we're firmly fixed on two wheels on the ground, what trends can we expect to see in the coming years? Well, maybe we're about to find out. This feature is Back to the Future. So please welcome our select panel here this afternoon. From Ribble, Jamie Burrows, the head of product. From Santini, the CEO, Monica Santini. From Hunt Bike Wheels, Luisa Grappone, the engineering and product manager. From Ceramic Speed, Ben Powell, who's the chief marketing officer. And from Col Yanto Barker. Ladies and gentlemen, your panel here this afternoon for our little gathering, our Back to the Future, what the trends are going to be going forward. Jamie, if I could start with you. 7 seasons as a professional with US Postal, with Amore Vita, a few years ago now, but to what extent does your professional career on the road, to what extent has that influenced the way that you look at bike design?
I think it's more a case of, I come from a cycling family. I used to design my own bikes when I was younger, and back in the days when everything was made from steel, I used to have them made by a local steel manufacturer. And then when you go into pro peloton, you lose that. Everything's just given to you. You have no choice of what you can ride. Most of the time it's great stuff, but you don't have any choice on that.
Did it leave you scratching your head sometimes, some of the stuff you had to use that
maybe
wouldn't have been your choice?
It does a bit. I mean, obviously things have changed a lot. Sky or Ineos as they are now have definitely, they've completely changed the whole outlook and everything with all the marginal gains, and it's pretty rare for teams of, of any decent Pro Tour level to be without kit of a certain level. But obviously, back in the day, you had obviously guys like Boardman and Lamond were the real innovators, where Chris Wood, put his own side to the development, but he was probably a standalone in that era.
A lot of people who are into cycling when they're kids, they want to be a professional. You managed to achieve that. We've seen some pictures of that. But actually, is what you're doing now something that you've always really been into? It sounds as if it is.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, obviously, you got your career on the road, didn't quite go as I wanted it to, but it's really nice to be
went
now.
Pretty well compared to most people, I have to say.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But it's really nice to now be putting something else back into the sport. And obviously, I've always been into my bikes and the technology, and to actually be there and put back in exactly what I would want, that's the best thing, yeah.
What do you think's the most important when you're looking at design? Is it aerodynamics or the weight?
Depends on what kind of bike. And obviously, we're currently working on a new aero bike project where obviously aerodynamics is the fundamental thing. And we're lucky now. I think we got stuck in a bit of a dead spot for a while, but UCI have just they've made some of the rules more lenient, and we've actually seen here upstairs today, we've got that the beautiful new GB Olympic bike developed with Lotus and Hope, and that sort of shows what you can do when you are allowed to think.
Yeah, if anyone's not seen that new bike, it really is worth a look here, because it's very different, isn't it? Do you think that will get into people's heads?
Yes, it's an interesting one, because when we first saw it, it's not obviously a commercial-looking bike, but everything about that bike, I've followed from a side a bit of that development, and that no stones left unturned. And what they've done is obviously to make the fastest bike. And for us, obviously, as selling to the public, we've got to have that side of it, but we also need a slightly more commercial side to things as well.
Things change over time, obviously, in every aspect of cycling and bicycle design. Years ago, of course, it was all steel tubing. It was Columbus SL and Reynolds and the 753 and the 531, still all around, of course, and excellent products. And then carbon. Everything seems to be carbon now. Is that the future as well, or are there other materials where that will come in, perhaps, that are being worked on that might replace carbon? Yeah,
there's nothing. We are working on some new carbon structures at the moment. Obviously, weight, basically to get the weight down and increase the strength, but we're a little way away at the moment.
Monica, what a famous surname you have, Santini. What a great brand it has been for a long, long time. Does that give you a little bit of a head start when you're bringing in a new product, because you know that it has this cachet and this history behind it? Are people more favorable towards new ideas that you have because of that?
Well, I would say it's a plus and a minus sometimes. I would say that it's a plus because of course with the time and the name comes also the experience and the great people that we have in the factories that know exactly what they're doing. It's a minus also sometimes because of course you need to convince people that even if you are a 55 years old company, you are not stuck to the old ideas, but you are always trying to innovate and to create new things.
Is that a difficult thing to do? To continue to push, to strive, to innovate when you have products that you know that work, and you've got the same people working in the factory, presumably. Is that a difficult thing to keep trying to push to find something different?
I would say that it was more difficult in the past. What we saw, at least in our company, was a big change in the past 5-10 years. We have, the company was passed from my father to me and my sister, and that was a time for a big change. And with the ownership, also the mentality of the company changed internally. Of course, what we try to do as two sisters, young at the time, a little bit less now, but and also female, we really pushed a lot a new mentality into all the people working with us. So giving them new goals to achieve, and also striving for perfection, quality, but also innovation.
You said the company's been around for over 50 years. A lot has changed, including things like Lycra shorts coming in. It was a long time ago now, but that would have been a big change at the time. And the types of jerseys, the printing on the jerseys, what do you think has been the biggest change in cycle clothing during the lifetime of your company?
Oh, well, definitely that was the biggest change. The game changer was definitely passing from wool to lycra and to polyester, and passing from embroidery and the flock printing to the sublimatic print. So I have to say I was a baby at that time, but but I remember it very well.
But people still like the old stuff, don't they?
Oh,
they like the historical jerseys.
Yes, they do. They do. We still have some products coming out with us, linked also to all these Eroica type of, old Eroica Britannia here, which is a very big event. Yes, they like that, but it's more like a nostalgic thing. Or the wool is now coming again, but in a different way. It's coming with, as a tech wool, so mixed with other fibers that get the best out of the wool technology and the characteristics of the wool, and add the technology of the man-made fibers.
Sustainability is an important topic now in clothing, as in everything else. What are Santini doing in this area? What are you looking at?
Well, we sure are polluters, let's face it. All the products that we make are polyester or based, mostly polyester, polyamide based, and of course those are all materials that are coming from oil. So we've been thinking about these issues actually in the past years already. And of course, it's impossible to think now to go back to only wool or other fibers, because of course the expectations of the technology in these kind of garments is very high. But what we can do is to try to limit the resources that we use. So we are adding a lot of recycled materials. So for instance, yesterday we launched the new Trek Segafredo kit, and all the jerseys are 100% made of recycled polyester, so the PET. And also, what we're trying to do is to understand how it's possible to recycle these elements. So, for instance, in the company, we have been already doing some in some stores that we have, and also on the Gran Fondos that we go to. We have these big bins where you can bring your own stuff, used one, and then we transform that. Of course, we cannot retransform it into polyester again, but we found a way to create those kind of floor mattresses that is used into the parks or the gyms and so on. So we give a new life to old products.
You mentioned the Trek Segafredo kit launch, which was here on this stage last night with Giulio Ciccone and Lizzie Diagnan. How important are those sort of relationships for your company these days? Having professional teams wearing your products, and of course also the contract you have to make the rainbow jerseys.
Well, these guys are always pushing us to new limits because, of course, when you have seasons, they are so unpredictable right now. So there's no summer, there's no winter, there's summer and winter all the same time, depending on the morning you open up your window. And these guys have to go out no matter what, so they have to ride for many hours. So they always get to us with some questions on.
So you do get useful feedback. It's not just a PR thing where people sort of say.
No, we do have a lot of feedback. We have a lot of feedback. We created, for instance, all our new jackets for them last year, based on the previous year comments that we had, and it was one super cold winter. At the same time, the same kind of feedback that we have, even in a more limited environment and also engineered environment, is from, for instance, the sponsorship that we have with the Australian national team. On our booth, we have the actual suit that Ron Dennis was using only a few weeks ago when he won another time the World Championship TT. And that is not coming from just some thoughts, but it's a study that we do for weeks, months, I have to say, actually, because with them, we have a 4-year project going on from one Olympic to the other. And so their feedback and the study that we do with the athletes is absolutely fundamental.
Now, of course, the clothing's very important. The wheels that people are riding on, very important as well. Luisa Grappone is alongside Monica here. How come we have an Italian woman working in the Sussex countryside for a wheel company? How does that come about?
Well, it happened 2 years ago, when I moved to Brighton, to Hunt, Partridge Green. Yeah, I knew these guys from Hunt doing cool stuff in UK and in the industry in general. I've been working for a long time in the cycling industry. I was working for Campagnolo a lot of years before, for 3-team cycling. So I was into the cycling industry. And for us, reading about all the magazine, the English magazine, which are very popular around the world, I was really getting info about these guys in UK, and then I said, well, why not? I always wanted to come and live in UK, although now I regret a bit because of the weather. But
you made it in time, that's good.
Yeah, it's like...
It came as a surprise for you.
Yeah, I thought at that time, oh, well, I will get used to this weather. Well, since 2 years, it's still not that...
Well, the news is you actually live in the best bit.
Yeah, this is what all people keep telling me. Yeah, you cannot complain. Brighton is one of the best places in UK. Oh, imagine what's the rest.
Absolutely. So what's the backstory with the company then? What's the big aim of the company? What are you trying to do going forward that's a little bit different? What are you looking to offer people?
We are all cyclists in our company, so that's the coolest thing that we have. We all ride to work every day. We all ride different kind of bikes, from gravel bikes to TT bikes. We have one of my colleagues is a part of the customer service. He won the master title in Europe, so he's a nerd in TT stuff. So we all are riding. So we know the world. We know what we want to get to the market because we are the first customer of ourselves. So our aim is just to provide every time innovation, good products, and what really the riders need. And we are always try to be on the time, with innovation and yeah.
Practically, how do you go about that, though? Because to the layperson, they'll say, well, a wheel is either round or it's not. And if you've got a round wheel, how much better can you make it? Do people realize how important a good pair of wheels are?
I guess the people really get into the importance of wheels, and wheels are really,
They're difference makers, aren't they?
Yeah, it's the first part of the bike who hit the airflow, the wind, whatever. And yeah, it's a round component, but it's so hard. Above all, when you start to think about carbon, you have to work on the layup. You can apply different materials. It's a matter of, you have to take into account many aspects. Is the stiffness, the aerodynamic performance, weight, and they have to be light but aero, and sometimes the two things that doesn't go in parallel, and you need to apply new technology, and it's something really hard to work on wheels, although it's just...
Is it just wheels for you? I mean, is there any other bits of the bike you're interested in, or has it always been wheels?
Well, I've been working mainly on wheels, but when I started back in 3T, I was working on handlebars, forks, so I'm focusing on materials in general, like carbon mainly, aerodynamics, so I spend a lot of time of my year into wind tunnel to make new components, testing. I was back in time in very good contact with teams, so it's something it's not just wheel, mainly is wheel what I focus on, but it's everything around the bike, basically.
Well, it's great to have you with us. I'm glad you're enjoying the sunshine in Sussex as well. Ben Powell alongside. Ben from Ceramic Speed. Until your company came along with your big idea, the idea of paying decent money for a set of pulley wheels is probably a non-starter for a lot of people. I mean, how do you go about changing people's mindsets? I mean, that must be the hardest thing. I mean, because it's a revolutionary idea that you've got, and I suppose for many people, they probably can't picture it until they physically see it.
Yeah. At Ceramic Speed, we are innovators, so we're always thinking outside of the box, and our core business is actually, it's pulley wheels, it's bearings, it's efficient chains, but essentially we're always looking for how do we make things better, and it's just that continuous drive, pursuing efficiency, and we always knew that the chain drive as it is today is basically come as far as it can in terms of its efficiency. High-end chain drive group set is about 97% efficient. And the chain is the biggest part of that in efficiency, so to say. It's efficient. I mean, 97% efficiency is pretty efficient. But we knew that if we wanted to get to 99% efficient, which was our goal, and that was our aim, was to have a drivetrain that essentially had 1% of energy loss, we knew we had to remove the chain. You have to remove the chain in order to get up to that 99%. And it's, again, a group of guys and women and just sitting down.
Is it literally sitting down with a blank sheet of paper saying, this is what we want to do, how do we go about doing it?
We have a group which we call the Skunk Works, and it's essentially the most innovative people in the company, from sales, from marketing, from R&D, and we come together on a monthly call. And any idea that we have, whether it's sales, marketing, that can move the business or move the department, we put it down on an Excel chart. And we rank it, and we decide, okay, where do we put our resources, and how do we move forward? And the 1% drivetrain came up probably about 3 years ago as an idea. Jason Smith, who's our Chief Technology Officer, he always believed that the bicycle drivetrain is not as efficient as it can be in terms of moving a bike forward, and he knew we needed to remove the chain. So he put the idea there, and we said, okay, we can't dive into this. We can't, we're not a drivetrain company. We're aftermarket upgrade company, and it kind of sat there for a while, and then maybe 1 year later we relooked at it and said, okay, we have some resource. let's try and actually make a 99% efficient drivetrain. So we just took blank piece of paper and said, okay, how would we do it? And that's essentially where the engineers came up with Driven, as you've just seen.
So we've got this now. It's here, isn't it? People can see it at the Rouleur Classic. At what stage are you really at? Are you still at the convincing people stage?
Yeah, I think
Or
so.
making people aware of it stage?
I think we're still in the development stage, and we are still in a position where we have a long way to go before this gets to market, for sure. But we believe that it's a very viable product that can actually replace the bicycle drivetrain as it is today. We are currently at a stage where we have very significant investment interest in the project. We've had that since Eurobike in 2018. And now we're at the stage where we have to make some decisions about, do we bring outside investment to help us scale the project? And that we're unsure of at the moment.
Fascinating. We'll keep an eye on that one. Yanto Barker on the end of our line there. Yanto, former professional, of course, not so long ago. Now very much involved in the industry, as you were before you retired with Le Col. I mean, it goes back to the point I was making with Monica about the feedback from riders. I mean, feedback to yourself on these products.
Yeah, definitely. A huge part of what we've built was on, real known insight from having been out for 6 hours in the rain and, when you get tired, what it feels like and how your kit performs in hot weather, cold weather, which bits really hurt. I can remember back in the day, Jamie will remember this as well, where your hands are cold up to your elbows and your feet, you can't feel them for hours after you get in, after your ride and that kind of thing. So, yeah, when you're a rider, you don't get to choose. When you're a professional, you don't get to choose to just skip that day and go out the next day. You have to go out. So your kit has to perform, and that's really been the backbone of where we started. I did start the business in parallel with my career. So since 2011 to 2016, I was running the business and racing full time, and that's not easy. I didn't have kids at the time, so I did at least, I could, dedicate my weekends to racing, but I was on the bus after 250k stages, trying to check my emails and make sure I got back to everybody that I had got back to, and make sure that we kept the business moving forward at the same time, being in a very, very competitive environment.
We mentioned about with the importance that a good set of wheels can make to your performance as a rider. Clothing, how key can that be as well? In terms of its design and the down to the ribbing and everything.
Yeah, so it's actually quite a complex question, and I don't want to answer it too simplistically because the wheels are obviously important, the bike's obviously important, the bearings, I was just saying, I use Ceramic Speed, I'm a fan of the product, they're all important.
But I'm interested where clothing fits into it too.
So what I was going to say is, yes, it's all important, but clothing, when it comes to aerodynamics, is probably the most single important aspect in that what you as a rider are wrapped in is generating the most resistance to you traveling forward on a flat road. When you climb, obviously, it's slightly different, and descending, there are other aspects that come into it. So we know this, and we really are positioning ourselves as a technical performance brand. That is what we're trying to be. That doesn't mean we're alienating ourselves from the sort of mid-market, because we have a luxury side, and I am a recreational cyclist now, not a professional, and I think that's also important for people to understand. But the way we try to pitch and outline the message is this kit will go as far as you can push yourself. And genuinely, I've been at 2,000 meters of altitude in January testing winter gloves and jackets and things in the Alps. And yeah, doing 5-6 hours at a time and just making sure that I've taken it to the absolute limit. I'm not scared to go to my own limit, and I like to make sure that what we develop can go as far as anyone can go themselves.
And if you're talking at the top end, and it's one for you as well, Monica, really, is that potentially a battleground area with the governing body in terms of what you are able to come up with and what they would be prepared to accept?
Can I say where we would be on that just quickly? Because I think, sorry to...
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
The rules are the rules, and a bit like Brexit, I don't care what it is. Let's just decide and get on with it. And I think if you get stuck, distracted, looking at trying to challenge the rules, you're missing an opportunity to really take your business to where it can go. Same for you guys, Everyone here, there are regulations in every possible walk of life. There are times to challenge them, and there are times to just use the channel that we're in. I don't know if you agree, Monica, but...
I guess I'm thinking more if you're making something for people on the world tour, for example, for a time trial in the Tour de France or whatever.
I agree with him that you have to know what the rules are, and of course that's an important part, to know what rules are. And so if I have to say something, is that the governing body needs to give you the elements at the right time. That's one element. And then once you know what you can do and you cannot do, you have to work within that scope. And I'm sure that there is a potential of innovation even within those rules, even if they're stricter. What I think it's important is that once you know the rules, once you worked within those rules, everybody does the same thing. So, and of course, the importance of the governing body to not only create the rules, but also to have them applied. So once you have that set environment, then I'm absolutely sure 100% that what you can do is incredible. In fact, well, the new rules are limiting a lot, but at the same time, it gives also the possibility to for everybody to actually buy the same products, because one of the rules is that it has to be commercially available from January 1st if you want to use it on the next Olympics. And that is giving the possibility to everybody to actually use exactly the same thing that has been studied and is going to be used by the big pros, the big national teams. So I think that that's a good rule that we have. And then, of course, yes, you have to be creative, because, of course, when you have a limited scope, you need to be creative. And that's one of the things that, honestly, we're very cool with that, because, you know, one thing that everybody knows is that Italians are messy, but they're very creative. So we are very fun with that.
Keep being creative, everybody. Some great work going on, lots to look forward to. We look forward to seeing all of your products and all of the others as well in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand for our panel. Thank you. Thanks very much. Now, coming up after a short break, Matt Stevens will be joined by the legendary 3-time Tour de France winner, Greg LeMond. Don't go away. Greg LeMond coming up soon.